how much I enjoy to say the word Star Trek when there's so much Red Angel weird stuff going on today. Star Trek, that used to be a thing. Star Trek, actually Star Trek. Star Trek Phase 2 New Voyages, actual Star Trek. Episode 3, World Enough and Time. And if you are right here on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to Mr. Sci-Fi yet, Mr. Sci-Fi, aka Mark Zickery, aka Space Command, aka writer for Twilight Zone, Star Trek obviously, wrote one of the best Star Trek episodes ever, writer for Babylon 5, writer for almost everything, Mark Zickery. He has an introduction for this episode on his channel because he wrote it, talking about how he always wanted to have a series focused on Mr. Zulu, and he originally wrote a script for Star Trek Phase 2 in the 70s. Phase 2, the original second Star Trek series before it was turned into Star Trek the Motion Picture. Mark Zickery wrote one of the scripts for that and revised it for a fan film, which is like the coolest thing ever. And in his channel he tells the best story ever about how he was at a convention and someone was asking what the future of Star Trek was, and he met Walter Koenig, and I just discussed the previous episode. I'm recording one after another, and Walter Koenig at that convention said that fans are actually making Star Trek episodes that are as good as the real thing. And Mark Zickery was in the audience apparently and listened to it, and he came with his script for Phase 2 from the 70s and rewrote it for that show, for Star Trek New Voyages. And the question was if George Takei was interested in it. He phoned George Takei, "Are you interested in this?" And George Takei said, "Oh yes, I am interested in this." You know, George Takei. I almost feel ashamed for trying to imitate George Takei, but he is such... George Takei has such an iconic voice. I can't even imitate it. Yes, just too much of an iconic voice that someone like me could imitate it. Anyway, he agreed to it, and they made this episode a Zulu episode. The first real Hikaru Zulu episode in TOS that never happened in the actual series, but in the continuation made by New Voyages. And that's why I'm glad that these fan productions have existed before CBS banned them all to make their weird new Star Trek more successful. However that would work, that shutting out all Star Trek fans would make their Star Trek more successful. Whatever. That's their idea of trying to appeal to new audiences who like Stamets being pansexual in an alternate universe. That would make Star Trek successful, instead of doing stuff that Star Trek fans like this episode. If you are a Star Trek fan and you haven't seen Star Trek New Voyages yet, brace yourself for this episode, because it's pure perfection. Not only did Mark Zickery, aka Mr. Sci-Fi, and Space Command, I haven't checked his Space Command series, but he's so proud of it. Anyway, he's the guy who wrote Far Beyond the Stars, the Deep Space Nine episode, so obviously he knows a thing about writing a thing or two. He put so much into it, and George Takei put so much into it, and they got this amazing guest actress. And the guy, the amateur actor who plays Zulu in the New Voyages version of Star Trek, he's really good too. And from the acting perspective, it's really amazing. And Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi, he was putting so much energy into it that the post-production, according to him, took a year so that the episode would turn out really perfect, so that all the visual effects and everything would turn out perfect, and it really did. This is such such an amazing piece of television. Of course, it would never be on television because it's not by a studio and not approved by some big corporation. It would never be on television. You can only find it on the internet, but it's such an amazing piece of television that should be on television. Of course, it isn't because of the corporate stuff, but it should be because it's so good. It's such quality. If you watch it, it's such quality. It's so good. Everything about it. It's so good. The interactions, everything. And there was a bit of, I'm hesitating a bit here, trying to describe it. James Cawley, he's an Elvis impersonator. He's not an actor. He's an Elvis impersonator. He impersonates Elvis. He's not a professional actor. And obviously from the beginning of Star Trek New Voyages, you could tell he's not an actor, but he has really improved so much. James Cawley he's really gotten into the character, really gotten into acting during the course of Star Trek New Voyages. He started as someone who, like in the pilot, he couldn't act worth a damn. It was pathetic. Maybe he could imitate Elvis, but his acting was pathetic in the pilot. But he really got into it, and with each episode he got better, and in this episode he's a good actor. He's actually a good actor. He's actually really good, yeah, I have to say that. He doesn't have any professional training besides imitating Elvis, but he got really good because he really got into it. There was so much passion for it that he really got into it, and the interactions with that amazing guest actress and, of course, George Takei, it's perfect. And the visual effects that Mark Zicree, aka Mr. Sci-Fi, insisted on, it's all really perfect, and it makes such a great episode. And I actually have a spoiler tag in the title of this video. I haven't actually given away any spoilers yet. Zulu is sent back in time and returns, having lived so and so many decades in an alternate thing and having a daughter with another crewman. That's the spoilers. It doesn't really matter what the story is for this. Not only it matters what the story is, but for this episode, all the performances are so perfect that you don't actually care what it's about. Everything is so perfect. You just watch it and you have your jaw dropping about how perfect it is. And you can't grasp, this is fan produced. This is not done by a studio. This is not done by Paramount. This is not done by CBS. This is some people who just love Star Trek doing it in a shed somewhere for no money, and it's so amazing that people can just do it like that. And I'm first of all marveling at the dedication, and of course nowadays the technology improved so much that people can do it, and I wish more people could do it. I wish this stupid CBS ban that was supposed to favor the retarded J.J. Abrams movies never existed, because of how amazing an episode or a series fans can just create nowadays. It would be such a great alternative to have to watching Sonequa Martin Green with her mouth open all the time calling it acting. It would be so amazing to just have that option to, instead of paying $30 a month for CBS All Access, that we could just watch amazing stuff like this. Why shouldn't this be the alternative for Star Trek fans who want actual Star Trek and not some show about Klingons having 4 nose holes instead of 2? Why would that be shut down? And actually, Mark Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, in the introduction for this episode, he said that Paramount talked to him about maybe we should make this official, but then he never heard from them again, because then the bad robot stuff came in and they thought, oh, there's so much more millions in that. And we all know how that turned out, that the movies, yeah, they made millions at first, and Discovery made millions at first, but Nobody wanted the Star Trek reboot movies merchandise, and there's not even merchandise for Discovery existing at all, and they're not going to really make money from it because they try to capture a millennial audience and ignore Star Trek fans, and they're going to make a few 100,000 in profit for like a really short run, but the merchandise thing that makes the long run money, they're not going to make anything from it. If nobody buys the reboot movies merchandise and Star Trek Discovery merchandise doesn't even exist, who would even want it except for Saru? Saru would be all the merchandise sales, but except from people who want everything in the package from mint condition. Can you imagine people who actually play with action figures, playing with Star Trek Discovery's action figures like in a Lord Helmet way? Like, oh, I love you, Ash Tyler. Yes, Michael Burnham, I love you too. Let's make out. I'm a Klingon sex monster, blah, blah, blah. I can't even imagine doing the Lord Helmet with Star Trek Discovery action figures, because the characters are just shit, and nobody wants them. Nobody will ever want them. They're just terrible. And why shouldn't we have a really good alternative like Star Trek New Voyages? Oh, because CBS says you cannot interfere with our great reboot that will just make us bankrupt in the long run, for reasons nobody understands. But if they want to go that way, okay. But if you don't want to go that way, go check out Star Trek New Voyages, and especially this episode that is just perfect and everything a Star Trek fan could want.